Dr. Sanjay Sanyal, Professor Department Chair. This is a quick demonstration of the brachial plexus in the axilla. So just to bring you up to speed, this is the pectoralis major, which is one of the boundaries, that anterior wall of the axilla. I'm reflecting the pectoralis major. This is the pectoralis minor, which also forms the anterior wall of the axilla. Now I'm going to reflect the pectoralis minor also. This is the posterior wall of the axilla. This is the latissimus dorsi muscle here. The next muscle that we see here, this is the teres major, and the next muscle that we see here, this is the subscapularis. So these constitute the posterior wall of the axilla. This is the lateral wall of the axilla, and this, the chest wall, intercostal muscles, and the serratus anterior constitute the medial wall of the axilla. Having mentioned that, let me tell you the brachial plexus. In order to understand the brachial plexus, we have to demonstrate what is known as the M landmark. So let us take out the M landmark here. This is the classical M landmark which I have lifted up. And we can see that it is in the form of an M. This is one limb of the M, and this is the other limb of the M. This is the musculocutaneous nerve arising from the lateral cord of the brachial plexus. This is the lateral root of the median nerve. This is the medial root of the median nerve. Both of them unite to form the median nerve. And this is the ulnar nerve, which is arising from the medial cord of the brachial plexus. So having identified the M landmark, now we know that this is the lateral cord of the brachial plexus, and this is the medial cord of the brachial plexus. So what are the branches that we can see from the lateral cord of the brachial plexus? At this juncture, we must remember that we are in the axilla, and we know that the roots and trunks of the brachial plexus are in the neck. The divisions of the brachial plexus are in the cervico-axillary canal. So therefore, these three portions, we cannot see them in this dissection. So here we can see only the cords and the terminal branches and the some of the collateral branches. So this is the lateral cord of the brachial plexus because it is situated lateral to the axillary artery. And arising from the lateral cord of the brachial plexus, we have this nerve which is coming out, and it is supplying the pectoralis major. This is the lateral pectoral nerve. This pierces the costocoracoid membrane and it supplies the pectoralis major. So this is arising from the lateral cord of the brachial plexus. This is the lateral cord of the brachial plexus. This is the pectoralis major muscle, which is being supplied by the lateral pectoral nerve. We can also see a communication from the lateral cord, lateral pectoral nerve to the medial pectoral nerve, which I shall demonstrate to you just now. What are the other branches from the lateral cord of the brachial plexus? We can see this nerve here. This is the musculocutaneous nerve, which I shall trace in another dissection. So these are the two branches that we can see from the lateral cord of the brachial plexus. Now let's take a look at the medial cord of the brachial plexus. This is the medial cord of the brachial plexus because it is situated medial to the axillary artery. Arising from the medial cord of the brachial plexus, first of all, we can see this nerve here. This is the ulnar nerve. This ulnar nerve, it descends down on the medial side of the arm, and it goes behind the medial intermuscular septum, and after that it goes behind the medial epicondyle and it goes into the forearm. Apart from that, the other branches from the medial cord of the brachial plexus are this one. This is the medial pectoral nerve. And as I mentioned a little earlier, this is a communication from the lateral pectoral nerve to the medial pectoral nerve, and the medial pectoral nerve supplies the pectoralis minor muscle from deep inside. And after it supplies the pectoralis minor, it pierces the pectoralis minor, as you can see here, and then it goes to supply the pectoralis major. So therefore, the medial pectoral nerve supplies both pectoralis minor and major, and the lateral pectoral nerve supplies only the pectoralis major. Pectoralis major receives both from medial and lateral. The next branch that we can see from the medial cord is this one. Ideally, we should have seen two such nerves. the upper one is the medial cutaneous nerve of the arm, and the lower one should have been medial cutaneous nerve of the forearm. But in this case, we see only one branch. In all probability, part of this will supply the medial cutaneous nerve of the arm, and the rest of it will continue as the medial cutaneous nerve of the forearm, and that's why it is so thick here. So these are the other branches which are coming from the medial cord of the brachial plexus. These are all the collateral branches. And that brings me to the final cord of the brachial plexus, which is situated posterior to the axillary artery, and that is the posterior cord of the brachial plexus. The posterior cord of the brachial plexus continues and it divides into two principal terminal branches, and we can see the two principal terminal branches here. The larger terminal branch is the radial nerve, and the smaller terminal branch is the axillary nerve. So these are the two principal terminal branches of the posterior cord, and incidentally we can see the posterior cord is receiving a communication from the medial cord, and that is this communication here. Apart from these two terminal branches, the posterior cord also gives the following branches, and let's trace them. The posterior cord gives rise to this first branch that we can see here. This is the upper subscapular nerve, which supplies the subscapularis muscle. The next branch that it gives out is this one here. This is the thoracodorsal nerve, and we can see by tracing the thoracodorsal nerve, when we trace the thoracodorsal nerve all the way down from here, and I'm tracing it, it goes and supplies the latissimus dorsi. And the next branch is this one. This is the lower subscapular nerve, which supplies both the subscapularis muscle as well as the teres major muscle. Since we are on the muscle nerve supplying the medial wall and the posterior wall, this is one branch that we can see which is actually arising from the roots of the brachial plexus, namely C5, 6, 7 root, but it comes down and it runs on the lateral side of the chest wall. This is the long thoracic nerve of Bell, which supplies the serratus anterior muscle. These two nerves, the long thoracic nerve of Bell and the thoracodorsal nerve, the first one supplying the serratus anterior and the second one supplying the latissimus dorsi, these two nerves have to be carefully safeguarded during axillary dissection when we are doing mastectomy for breast cancer and doing an axillary dissection for the lymph nodes. We have to safeguard these two nerves. Injury to the long thoracic nerve will produce paralysis of the serratus anterior and weakening of the scapula, and injury to the thoracodorsal nerve will cause paralysis of the latissimus dorsi. Apart from that, of course, any other nerve can also be injured, but these two nerves are especially prone to injury because they are further lower down, and these are the ones which come in the region of our dissection. So these are the important collateral branches that we can see. One thing we must remember, that the branches which come out from the brachial plexus proper, they are called the collateral branches, and the branches which come out from the end of the brachial plexus, namely the musculocutaneous, the median nerve, the axillary nerve, radial nerve, and the ulnar nerve, these are the terminal branches of the brachial plexus. These are strictly speaking not part of the brachial plexus. Final point to be noted is that arising from the root of the brachial plexus, apart from the long thoracic nerve of Bell, which I have already mentioned, we also have another nerve called the dorsal scapular nerve arising from C5. We cannot see that here because, as I said, the root and the trunks of the brachial plexus are located in the neck. The dorsal scapular nerve supplies the levator scapulae, rhomboids major and rhomboids minor. Another nerve which comes out from the upper trunk of the brachial plexus is the suprascapular nerve, which also we cannot see because it is located in the cervico-axillary canal and in the neck, and the nerve to the subclavius. So these are the structures which we cannot see. However, the long thoracic nerve, as I mentioned, though it is arising from the roots, but it comes to the axilla, therefore we can see it. So these are all the structures which are visible in the axillary dissection. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. Dr. Sanjay Sanyal signing out.